Welcome to Season 2 of Kindred, hosted by me, Kate, and my sister, Jenn. In this podcast, we explore our human relationship to animals and the natural world.
In connecting to our world, we also connect to compassion, understanding, and empathy. How can we see ourselves not as separate from animals and nature, but part of an active ecosystem?
This season, Jenn and I will focus on learning about the history of our disconnect to the natural world. What knowledge and connection have we lost and why?
We'll talk with scientists, conservationists, academics, and many others as we look to answer the question, how can we implement change in order to heal our planet?
And we'll explore how we can repair and restore our connection and relationship to our fellow keystone species and ecosystems. Hello, and welcome back to Kindred, everybody, all you good people. We are live from Pennsylvania and Cape Cod today. Hello on Zoom, sister. This is a new format.
I know, I feel so fancy. I get to actually look at the host today.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's like you're our guest and I'm your guest.
Yeah, I feel like I just went up a few notches. Yeah.
You definitely did. And you with your glasses, so you look like maybe you're the scientist that we're interviewing.
I'm feeling pretty scientisty, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So we are not together, so our audio will sound a little bit different today. Happy summer. How's it all going? We would love to hear how you guys are enjoying the season so far. And if you have any comments or quips or queries, please email us at thekindredpod@gmail.com. So great to have you guys back. Thanks for joining us today. So today we are speaking with Willa Powless, who is a member at large on the Klamath Tribes Council. She lives in Southern Oregon, and she has a BASC from University of Wyoming. And I just want to give you a brief history of the Klamath Tribes, which we took from their website. But first, I just wanted to mention that we first found Willa via an article from The Guardian, which was published in February 2021, and we will put that link on the website. It's titled "Piecing Together a Broken Heart, Native Americans Rebuild Territories They Lost" by Hallie Golden. And it discusses the progress of the Klamath tribe took back their territory, and through real estate, they bought it back, and which is becoming or beginning to be something that tribes are doing and a bit more common. A quote in the article that really struck a chord was this. I'm just going to read it. Quote, "Willa Powless, Klamath Tribes Council member at large, said it was a major step forward, piecing together a broken heart. She says, our people are born with a spiritual connection to the land that we all feel and we all know, and our elders teach us about. She said, getting back that big piece of land, especially undeveloped land, is really powerful. And it's probably one of the most healing processes we've gone through in a long time." And we just were really struck by that. And it's why we wanted to talk to her specifically too, just so beautifully said. And just a little history on the Klamath Tribes. They have lived in the Klamath Basin of Southern Oregon. And this is a quote from them, "from time beyond memory," which is just really beautiful. The Klamath Tribes consist of 6 tribes, including the Klamath, Modoc, and Yahuskin bands of the Snake Indians. And from what we could tell, the first interaction with white people was from the Hudson Bay Company in 1826. And it talks about how the Klamath Tribe ceded more than 23 million acres of land in 1864 and then became a reservation. And they retained rights to hunt, fish, and gather on that land as they say, in perpetuity. However, in 1954, the Klamath Tribes were terminated by the U.S. government. And interestingly enough, prior to the 1950s, the Klamath tribes were one of the wealthiest in the US due to lumber and timber trade, which is fascinating, but regained federal recognition in 1986 by an act of Congress, which they celebrate every year. And by no means, like I said, is this a thorough or complete history of the Klamath tribes. So please, jump on their website, which is klamathtribes.org, and that's spelled KLAMATHTRIBES.org, klamathtribes.org. They've done an excellent job at providing resources for the public, and it's a very good website, so go check that out. So yeah, Jenny, let's head over to our
episode. Yeah,
with Willa, and we'll see you guys in the takeaway. Enjoy. Willa, welcome to Kindred, and thank you for speaking with us today. If you could introduce yourself, where you are located, and tell us a bit about your background.
Thank you. My name is Willa Powless, and I am an enrolled Klamath tribal member. The Klamath tribes are located in Southern Oregon. I was born and raised in Klamath Falls, Oregon, and I currently live in Chiloquin, Oregon, which is the headquarters for the Klamath tribes.
So where exactly in the state are you guys?
The central southern, right in the middle of Southern Oregon, right? We're probably about 20 minutes from the California border.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Really beautiful. I've not been out there yet, but someday it's on my bucket list for sure. So Willa, just starting with focusing on land, what does land mean to you? And what does the specific geographical location of where you were born and where you live now all mean to you specifically?
That's really hard to put into words because land pretty much means everything to me as an Indigenous person. And where I was born and where I currently live is the homelands of my ancestors from my tribal side. So all our creation stories come from this land. I actually live a few yards up from one of the creation stories in our tribe. So it's really powerful to be out on the land every day and see the stories that we grew up hearing and see the significant cultural landscapes that are still there that we can look at with our very eyes and see. And then just you can feel the power of land. So land's really powerful. Not only have our people live there, but we're also buried there. So our families are buried on our land, and I will be there too when I go.
Well, that's really beautiful and very powerful. And that leads me to the question from your perspective, what is the relationship memory and ritual have to land for you?
So memory and ritual to land is something that you're born with. So when you grow up, you already feel that connection. It's a powerful connection. You can't describe it. It's just something that you're born with, knowing that you belong to this land and that the land belongs to you. And the ritual is just being able to be out on the land and being able to enjoy it. And we are taught that we have a spiritual connection to the land that we're born with, but that also comes with a spiritual obligation to protect the land and to save the land and mostly to protect it for our future generations. So that way it's there for them to live on and to enjoy and protect as well.
And, that makes me think too about you and your tribe's perspective on what does, and I say in quotes, land ownership mean to you, past and present?
So past and present, land ownership is not just owning the land itself, like having the deed and title to the land, but being able to have decision-making power on that land. And so that includes everything from how we're going to manage land to having jurisdiction on that land to being able to protect our people on that land. So some of the significant issues that you're seeing nationwide are like missing and murdered Indigenous people. There's issues like that that are connected to the land. And so with land ownership comes all of that. It's not just having the actual land itself in possession. It's a huge component that all works together. So it mostly goes back to having that decision making over every aspect of the land.
And recently, your tribe was able to buy land in the Klamath Falls area. Is that correct?
Yes, the tribe itself had bought some land in Klamath County, and it's within our former reservation boundaries.
So what's your current focus and future goals for that land?
Well, the tribe's current focus and future goals is decided by our membership, and the membership has decided to do to do everything we can to protect the land. And it's going to start with conservation efforts and mostly with natural resources, kind of reclaiming and restoring some of the waterways. So
that leads me to my next question is, why do you think this bigger conversation about land and conservation and in context to native owned lands has seen a huge rise in attention in terms of the media?
Well, I think globally people are starting to understand that climate change is real and that there are steps that need to be taken to protect the earth itself for all our generations, regardless of whether they're indigenous or not. And I think the media and the larger society are looking to indigenous people that have what's called tribal ecological knowledge. So we have traditional knowledge of how to protect and care for these lands, and it's in practice everywhere you look. There's tribes that are practicing conservation efforts, and it's in partnership and collaboration with our community partners. So that's really been significant. In our tribe specifically, we have evidence of a fire that took place. It was the 242. Oh no, wait, it was the Bootleg fire that had happened last year. And prior to that, our tribal staff had went out and done some conservation and some treatment areas in the forest. And when that fire went through, those areas survived, and it was what they call a green island. So if you look at those pictures, that all survived. And so that's part of that traditional knowledge that I'm talking about that can help protect lands. And that's happening all over the world, where indigenous people are stepping up and showing that, we do know how to care for the land, and we can do it together in partnership with everybody.
In terms of what you were talking about in conservation, and what's another example of that knowledge that you can contribute to conservation, specifically in your area too?
Let me see. That I think mostly just trying to make a safe area for the habitat. I know there's a big discussion about dam removal and the dams coming down on the Klamath River. And once those dams come down, salmon will be returning to this area, and we need to have clean waterways for the salmon to survive.
And what does salmon mean to your tribe?
The salmon was originally one of our traditional food sources, and when the dams went in, we lost access to the salmon. But there is proof that salmon were in the Klamath Basin as far up as the head of the Spring River prior to the dams going in. And there's traditional salmon camps. There's a lot of evidence that salmon were here. So it's pretty significant. It's exciting to think about salmon returning. I don't know if we'll see it in my lifetime, but I know in my children and grandchildren's lifetime, we'll see that. And hopefully it will be something that can be enjoyed by everybody. And it's going to be another primary food source eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of, I know on the Oregon coast and the Washington coast, there's a lot of work being done to get salmon back into the waterways. And we've done a little bit of research about what even that bigger ecosystem, how salmon and bears and the forest and this incredible cycle that, salmon contributes not just to, the people of the land, but the forests of the land and the forest nation and the indigenous nation. So it's a really beautiful reciprocation that can hopefully happen more thanks to the work that tribes like yours are doing. So you had mentioned, your grandchildren, and I just wanted to ask a question. In a previous conversation, Willa, you had mentioned raising your daughter's son, and you had said something to the effect of, how do I raise a Native boy in this day and age? And it's such a poignant question. And if you're willing, just walk us through what that means to you.
That it's a huge responsibility to take that on. As I had mentioned before, I lost my daughter in last September to a car crash, and so I'm raising my grandson now, and he'll be 2 in June. And so I'm learning that it does take a village to raise a child. I've had to get a lot of help from my family and people within my tribe to help me, and it's been pretty neat seeing how helpful a lot of people are to step up and help when it's needed. And raising him is just thinking about, how important our culture is and how important it is to teach that to him and teach him the ways that I think that his mom wanted him to know, and that, as tribal members that we grow up hearing and seeing. And there's a big movement, especially within our youth. And I've seen that nationwide too, but really particularly in our tribe, there's a big movement where our youth are reclaiming our traditional ways, especially our language and a lot of our ceremony, things that we didn't grow up with in my generation because of federal policies like termination and relocation. So I think learning that myself, because a lot of that I wasn't raised with, but I've relearned some of it, and then teaching him that, so that way he can be a good community member and hopefully a future tribal leader.
Well, we're sorry for the loss of your daughter. I can't imagine what a great loss to your heart and your life. And I'm wondering too, if through raising your grandson, do you think there's a possibility for the next generation to find restoration and healing within your community?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is. I think there's a lot of different things when we do talk about issues like land back. I think that it's going to be these younger generations that will help restore and heal those things that have happened to our people and that have happened to the land itself, like the damage to the land. I know that land back is a big topic right now, and land back. There's so many meanings behind that. It's not just the actual land, but like I had said earlier, it's the decision making and helping take care of it. So I think our future generations are going to be the ones that will be able to fix and remedy all of that. There's a lot of tribes that refer to it as the 7th generation, and I think that's what's happening right now. Is the 7th generation is coming of age, and they're starting to take their rightful roles as leaders in the communities. And my grandson will be part of that effort when he gets older.
Yeah, that's right. And I think we think so too, that it is going to be in the next generations of your community that are going to lead the way back to healing and restoration. Well, thank you, Willa, for chatting with us. This is just a lovely introduction into your world, and a little bit of to hear the work you and your community are doing, and again, a very inspired future it's for us to see. And we'd love to talk with you again. I feel like we just sort of tipped the iceberg, and it would be incredible to go even deeper at some points. But thank you for sharing your perspective and your story. We so much appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been fun talking to you guys.
Hey guys, welcome back to The Takeaway. Loved that conversation with Willa. I've got a few points that I just kind of want to hit, and jump in whenever you want, Jenny. So the first, I would say, that really hit me just was astounding to me when she talked about how her tribe's creation story took place where she still lives today.
Yeah, I thought that was crazy too. Yeah.
And that not only that, she can go back and, her ancestors, they're still buried there. And just that just that, like, that's just astounding to me. And
like that's what you were talking about, the sense of place, and like that's a sense of place like nobody I know has, because it's like you said in the intro, you know, what was the quote, like before time? I can't remember whatever that wording was. It's like they've been there so long they can't remember when they weren't there.
That's right. Yes, from time beyond memory.
Yeah, time beyond memory. That was really cool. Yeah, and
I mean, it's kind of like if you and I and our ancestors, we still lived where Adam and Eve were.
Yeah, exactly. It's just we can't. I don't think we have anything that would compare, because
I know personally I do not, and it just sets it up for, you know, the depth of connection that she has is really incredible. And they do on the klamathtribes.org website, there's a video, and there is a bit of their creation story, so go check that out. And yeah, just being born and raised, you know, obviously because of this, you know, the deep connection, and then she said, you know, the deep connection that she has, but then the responsibility, she said, responsibility and obligation that she feels to that land, which when you're coming off that perspective of time beyond memory, you get that she uses that word obligation. You are born obligated to serve the land, to respect it, to nurture it, to care for it.
Well, and you can't extricate that from who you are, because who you are comes from, partly is informed by being on that land for so long you can't remember not being there.
So yeah, I just I found that, you know, just the word obligation, I thought was something that we could all incorporate into our psyches on a deeper level, right? For not only the world, but taking it back to that, you know, that local level, is it where you live, be responsible and obligated to the land that we are operating on right now, like my plot of land,
right? Yeah,
the community around me. And you know, it made me think too when we interviewed Sally from Think Wild in the first season, and she was talking about take care of where you are. She talked about that too, like, you know, get involved in your community, and it's a really good. I need that reminder a lot.
Well, and you can just see too, if everyone did that, we would all be in such a better place, because you know, it's like that bumper sticker, you know, it's really more talking about food production, but think global, but buy local. Like, just take care of the people that live where you live. And if everyone did that, things would just work a lot better. We don't really do that so much. It's not second nature to us, let's say, at least.
Right. That's right.
So I just want to switch gears a little bit and just mention in our last episode, Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, you had mentioned something that Willa mentioned, and I just wanted to explain it a little bit, about the missing and murdered Indigenous people. And so you and I are true crime podcast buffs, and we know a little bit about this, but I think the statistic is that Indigenous women are the most murdered people in the country. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, they have the highest percentage of murdered people, Indigenous women. Yeah.
Yes, is Indigenous women. And so this is something that only I have become aware of in the last like 3-4 years, I guess, since I've started listening to podcasts. And it's something that people on reservations it's a serious, very real statistic, and it's a real issue. And so I just wanted to touch on that a little bit and highlight that. The other thing I thought was interesting that I've heard about a lot of other areas in the country about dam removal and taking dams down and what that could mean in terms of salmon return to rivers in specific areas. And, again, just highlighting what a big deal like salmon and fish mean to many tribes, and in specific with the Klamath tribes we're talking about today. And not only what it means to Willa and her tribes, but the environment as well. And
no, it's so true. And she said it was so interesting too, because I was sort of thinking, well, they just take this dams down and then the salmon return. And she's like, well, it may not be in my lifetime. And she's not an old woman. So it's not like she's about to die. I was like, wow, that it could take, into her grandson's lifetime. Well, she said her kids or her grandkids, but
yeah,
I thought that was kind of interesting too. Just these things we do so much of the time and don't think about the far-reaching, don't think about like the seventh generation, don't think about those kind of things. That is such a thing that our people, unfortunately, white people, have done over and over again, just making decisions based on what's good for them at the time and not necessarily putting the thought into how will this be when I'm gone? How will this be what will my legacy be if I do, just that forethought. And
that's right. And living your life for your future ancestors,
right.
Forward, and what will the next generations, decisions we make today, how does it affect them?
Right.
And that actually leads me to one of the next points was you mentioned her grandson and how, just the monumental responsibility of raising her grandson for her daughter who passed away sadly, and just how she knows her daughter would want her to instill the ways of her culture into him and raise him with the tribal ways and language and tradition. And then she mentioned the younger generations and what she called getting land back. She called it land back. And then again, to your point, she also refers to the seventh generation, which we again talked about in Kimmerer's book, in Braiding Sweetgrass. And I think, it was so interesting I'm so glad that we had Braiding Sweetgrass behind us coming into this conversation with Willa.
Yeah.
It gave me, and just other research that we've been doing, but it gave me a depth I wouldn't have had before, and sort of aligning these conversations side by side was really very enriching and just really helped me. So I would say if you haven't listened to Braiding Sweetgrass, go back to that and listen.
Yeah, definitely, because that's the thing, not being very uneducated about how it works from tribe to tribe. It was so interesting to hear, they come from different parts of the country and hear how things are different and hear how things are the same in their native culture. And that was very fascinating, just to have that a little more breadth of knowledge before we came into
a little bit. That's right. Just
a very little bit. Yeah.
A very little bit, which we are very clear on. And just, hearing Willa talk about the deep connection that she has to land and the creation story, and then, what tradition means to her and what land means to her. And we talked a lot about that in the last episode. And, and then even what ancient tribal knowledge and knowing that she has of the environment, and what that has to offer, repairing and restoring the land, the environment through land back, right? And she's the real working voice of what Kimmerer was talking about. I mean,
right, exactly. Yeah,
she's writing about it, and then we're hearing this this is everyday working within Willa's life and her whole being.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to just refer back to was, remember when we talked to Kate Stafford about with the bowhead whales episode, and again, just linking these ideas of there's many small pockets around the country where, because Kate talked about how much science she knows from the Inuit people in Alaska.
Right. I was thinking about that too. Yeah, and just the what she has been able to gain from them sharing with her, and the acknowledgement of that makes her work that much more powerful because they shared that with her, and just their connection to land and to place and to these animals. It's not the same as salmon and whales, but again, they depend on those whales, and they are not completely gone, but these things matter. Again, how we move forward. Yeah.
Right. And there's a lot of conversation about national parks being given back to Native tribes.
Yeah.
And we talked to Willa after we stopped recording, and again, she said, and I'll refer back to our introduction where she said, basically, land back, and this is her quote, is probably one of the most healing processes we've gone through in a long time.
Yeah.
And that's deeply meaningful for her tribes, for the environment. And it's just what, again, referring back to Kimmerer's book, and where she talked about the two prophecies.
Mm-hmm.
How could have one way where Western world meets Native tribes here. What beautiful connection, collaboration could be had, and where that could go. One prophecy, the other prophecy is where it goes the way that actually did, and we have history to prove that. So this to me is, again, sort of talking about the seventh generation in their communities, in their tribes, what that means for them going forward. And there's inspiration there, and there's healing there, and there's restoration there for all of us humans living on and in North America, basically. And across the world, but we're talking about here right now.
Right. No, for sure. And that to me is exciting and encouraging, that we can move forward in different ways than we have moved in the past. And there are opportunities to have that collaboration be to value both ways, and not for somebody else to just usurp their way of life, or to try to put their to strong arm somebody, basically. I just feel like it's hopeful if we can all just wake up a little and realize that we have so much to learn from these ways, and just these beautiful things, like she was talking about, that green space, that green triangle when there was a fire, and they know how to protect land from fire. And have you noticed we've had some trouble with fire in our country? We have so much, we could benefit so much.
Oh yeah, and I think it's starting. I think again, it's there, that idea of the real working playing out of the seventh generation, and even like going across the world to Africa. When we talked to Rebi Sabei from Ruko Giraffe Conservation, where they healed tribes, but tribal, warfare between the two of them through the environment, through giraffes. That's right. Really what was the healing.
It's definitely possible.
And collaborative, like you're saying. Let's just and it's proven over and over again that this work. I think she called it the Green Island. It was like that, all those fires out there, and it was just there's this green space that wasn't touched. It's like
it was the green triangle, yeah, because it was just this little but it and because they know stuff about how to do that.
It was a great conversation, and just listening to her and what she has to offer, and it was so, again, just really great coming off our review of Robin Kimmerer's book, Braiding Sweetgrass. And thank you to Willa Powless for speaking with us. And I really hope that we can touch base with her again and see in the next year or two, how the land they got back, they bought back, how it's going, and we will keep in touch with her, hopefully. So thank you so much to Willa, and thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next episode. Lots of love.
Bye. Kindred is hosted by me and my sister Jen, produced by Kat Gaddy and myself, sound production and editing by Dan Cooper, original music by Ellie Grace, and our Kindred artwork was created by Lindsay Coffin. Please follow, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And feel free to contact us through our website at kindredpodcast.co, where you can also find links to our socials, Patreon page, and show notes.